Come and spend a day in my life at culinary school in Dubai. First, I put on my uniform, getting ready to go into the kitchen. Then, I checked out our board of recipes for the day. Today, we started off with puff pastry and making turnovers. First, we cut the dough into our shape, and then we brushed the edges with egg wash. Then, we filled the dough with our vegetable filling of zucchini, peppers, and eggplant. After putting the filling, we put in our Parmesan cheese and then folded over our turnover into our triangle shape, making sure to press down the edges so that the filling doesn't leak out. Then we made our jalousie, using the cutter to make an indentation and then dragging it along the dough to create our desired pattern. After that, we added in our apple filling, which was the same one from yesterday, and then folded the top over to the bottom. Then we moved on to cheese straws, first cutting out the strips of our dough, then giving it a quick egg wash and sprinkling our Cajun seasoning. Finally, we added the cheese. Then our chef showed us how to twist the straws into the desired shape, moving one side up and one side down. Then we moved on to palmiers, first sprinkling on custard sugar and then folding over our puff pastry, first 1/4 down, and then we folded that piece onto the other to create half of our heart shape. After the half, we did the same onto the other side. Once both sides were folded, we folded them together so that we could have a heart shape to cut out. We put this dough into the chiller to rest. Our final puff pastry product was a tatin. First, we caramelized our sugar and added butter and a pinch of cinnamon. Then we added on our sliced pineapple, putting it into the pan one at a time to create a spiral shape. Finally, we placed on our puff pastry disc and put the pan into the oven. Then in the afternoon, we moved on to phyllo pastry, first starting with phyllo cups, where we cut out a round shape of phyllo pastry. We then placed this into a mold with another one on top to prevent it from flying in the oven. Once the cups were out of the oven, we filled them with some caramel nut filling. Then we moved on to spanna cotta with spinach filling, folding our dough into triangles. After that, we made a quick creme anglaise for our final dessert. First, we got out our dough that we had prepped in the morning and stretched it out. Then we added our pear filling and rolled up the dough into the strudel shape, making sure to tuck in the sides. Then all our desserts were ready and out of the oven, and we finally plated them and got them ready for the buffet. Once everything was plated, we set up our buffet and started taste testing. Thanks for following along with me, and I hope you enjoyed. See you next time.